Hi. Can you tell us your name?
I'm Graham Macaulay, and I'm a board member here at the 50/50 Arts Collective, and I'm also an artist in this show. And I helped to organize it.
Fantastic. Can you tell us what your piece is called?
My piece is called, I just settled on the name today. I don't want to give you the wrong one. It is called Going Apart to It Always.
Going Apart to It Always? Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Well, the piece, I think it's easiest for me to start with materials, because that's really where I start. It's with because it's kind of a long gestation process. So these are just things that have really persisted, I find, in my life, in my work life and in my social life. We've got this pile of old cords here, old dead snipped cords, and these fire bricks from a makeshift fireplace, which actually our landlord made us take apart, unfortunately. And we have the oldest material in here that's been with me the longest is a jar of Mackenzie's Creamery White Honey. But it's emptied now, and it's full of sand from Willows Beach in Oak Bay, and that I've kind of held on to for a long time. And I just find these things. There's kind of I guess sometimes I find I have a bit of this kind of hoarding kind of mentality. This sort of, I guess, object obsession sometimes is these sort of a tendency towards shrining, can I say? As weird as that may sound, at least in my practice. And so I find when things like this stick with me so much, I want to find a way to combine them, and that can, in this case, it kind of became very much just a compositional strategy, a kind of a way to make them work together visually. But I think that's really just, I hope that's holding together a lot more through lines that are kind of jumping, that are jumping from thing to thing, that have been kind of riding underneath. That's why they've kind of stayed.
Okay, so what I'm understanding from you is that these are things that have stuck with you for a little while. They're things you've been carrying around with you. And you've put them together, you've decided to put them together compositionally. You've played around with them, this is the way you like how they work. And I noticed
Decorating.
it is.
It's arrangement.
But isn't a lot of this? It's always, yeah. And I noticed the wire is painted, and I think that's very interesting. Did you paint the wire?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
For this particular piece?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It was, and that was done over a very recently, over a short period of time. Very simplistically, it was kind of it. I guess I had an idea of a certain effect I wanted to achieve, and I kind of just quickly pushed to that. It's not so much about that as a painting.
Okay.
It worked to create to make a surface that I wanted rather than just the surface of the old wires. Although I hope some of that is still remaining.
Yeah, I think that works really well. It gives it, this interesting painterly texture quality to it. And it's interesting, like this fine cord with, like, kind of juxtaposed the cinder blocks, that roughness and squareness of the cinder blocks work really well together.
I really appreciate textures. Texture and color is great.
It's very textural. Yeah. It is very textural. And is there any other meaning for this installation other than composition?
Yeah, other than hanging together nicely. I hope so. I certainly do. This is, I guess, where it gets kind of tricky, because I always find I tend to spring from and move towards very this kind of very personalized language, this very subjective experience. You know, I'm dealing with stuff that I tend to avoid just taking anything. You know, I want to take these things that are very meaningful to me, or that have kind of stuck with me in this way, like I said. But I understand that that's not reading necessarily going to read through so well, right? So I'm wary to say too much about the history of the objects, because I feel like part of the importance of it is just this, provided with this sort of this improvisation, the viewer's kind of forced to improvise in a way on that. In this kind of structure, it's like using things as a language to kind of create. I think of it a bit as poetry, as kind of using objects in a way to kind of construct a new language, as objects as words. I guess if I could just talk broadly, I've got kind of a little highfalutin.
You can talk any way you want.
All right. Well, I'll try to be casual. It's simple stuff. It's the ocean, and it's mess, and I think there's fear and self-consciousness in it. But I also find a lot of comfort and quiet in this, and kind of sentimentality and just kind of nostalgia for certain things, for certain experiences. Say, you know, obviously for the fire pit.
Right. Well, all the objects are nostalgic for you, right? They all have a sentimental quality. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out how much that kind of stuff can read. I think when you see, at least when I see very specific arrangements of objects of this kind of specificity, I think you tend to assume or hope for some kind of a subjectivity, or for some kind of someone else on the other side of it.
Yeah.
And you kind of try to fill that in.
Yeah.
And so in a way, I guess it kind of, I don't know how much it should just be about me on the other side of that, though, as it is about maybe just this. Is like, this is the other side of this, is
Right.
this and only this. But I mean, in that way, there's the other side right in the back there.
I was wondering about that, because I noticed you don't take it all the way to the corner. And I found this space interesting, this negative space. And I was wondering about that, about what it is you're leaving out. Are you leaving that out for the viewer to fill in? Is that your space now? Because these are very sentimental objects, and now you've left this gap. Is that for me to fill in? Everything is very purposely placed, right? You know, you got the cracked brick on an angle. It's not placed perfect like the other ones. And so to me, there's a sense of that brick is very sentimental, seems like. It's placed in such a way that you have told us about an experience that you've had. And the gap behind there is almost like, I'm not sure, what, are you leaving the gap for, you're leaving it for more room to grow.
I think, you know, all those things could fit in there. And you're not sure. I guess that's good, because I'm not sure. I think you said a question, and I guess that's what it, you know, the whole thing. But especially there's the question, right?
There's a question.
And as far as the brick and the arrange, I think that's just kind of the cherry on top of the whole posed thing. Because, you know, in a way, that's the thing, is it's almost like you're trying to be sincere you know, it's this idea that's, you get that with kind of, say, stuff that's sort of expressionistic, this kind of sense of this ideal of sincerity and whatnot, but it's this posed construction,
Yes.
and I think I'm really aware of that, and I really, you know, and especially in poetry, it can be a problem unless you just accept it and then just get past it.
Right.
And so I think that fits in there too.
Yes.
And I guess just very simply, I would say that this is the part. Everything else, to a certain extent, was planned. You know, I had a sense of, before I'd even made it, I had a rough idea of how things could fit together. You know, apart from tweaking. But then the specifics like that kind of came about when I was in the space and I was helping to install, and I was trying to figure out not only my own work, but I was trying to figure out and understand how everything could fit together, because that's so important. And the show in general, storage, it's really about space and about where you put things and what you keep and how you keep it.
Right.
And so I think, yeah, space.
Yeah, yeah. It's an interesting thing because this flows, you know, and that is that's the tension, you know, of the piece. I think is the negative space, which is interesting. And I know we were supposed to come back to something, and now I forget what that was. Do you remember, Efren?
Why he was different from the other.
Oh, right.
He was always.
You were always. So, right, you were supposed to create something else with the class, because you're a part of a class, but you chose to create something else. That's what Efren was thinking about, like, he was curious about why you chose to do that.
Yes, yeah. Well, so this show was initially conceived as a gathering of friends, I guess I'd say friends and classmates and fellow artists. The four of us were in a studio class together at the University of Victoria, and we shared a large studio space together. We each had kind of little areas in that space. So there wasn't necessarily direct collaboration, but there's always this kind of open communication, at least in the sense of a visual
Right, so you all
transfer.
influence each
We're
other.
all seeing, you know, I mean, you get critiques, but we're also in the studio. You're watching, you are there working, and you look up, and, you know, well, I look outside, and
Yeah.
there's Ross outside carving.
Yeah.
And here's me at my desk, just with my head in my hands, trying to think my way through something, right? But yeah, we'd had these pieces that we wanted to bring together because they really kind of exemplified that, and I wanted to stay true to that, and I hope I did. But I found, because of the kind of the simplistic nature of the materials in my work, the kind of extended gestation process, as I said, but then resulting in this kind of sudden just, okay, put it together. Go out and gather it, and then figure it out,
And
done.
you never know, especially with installation art, that you have an idea of what you're going to do, but then you get in the space, and the space, you know, is a thing that dominates, and you have to work with the space.
Oh, yeah.
So you bring in your work, what you're going to put in there, and then you go, oh my God, that's completely wrong. It's got to be this.
Yeah.
Is that what happened?
Actually, I brought in the materials, and I went through several ideas of how I was going to set it up, and kept moving around little pieces. And I was glad I did was I actually did a lot of the work, a lot of the painting of this actually in this space. Yeah, and so that just kind of, I think that allowed this to be a little smoother. So yeah, so I guess that's
Very
it.
good. Well, thank you very much, Graham.
Thank you. You're very welcome. Thank you.
My name is Tonya Hall.
And you are a UVic student?
Yeah, I'm a visual arts UVic student.
What year are you in?
I'm just about to enter 4th year.
Okay.
Yeah, I really like it.
Great.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about your sound installation here?
Yeah. I just kind of started working with sound over the past year. It's just something that I kind of like stumbled into. I've had a lot of training musically. Like I've done like band and stuff for a lot of years. So I never thought of doing it as like a visual art kind of thing. But I started doing stuff with light last year, and that was appropriate with sound. So. This one, I was supposed to have an actual visual sculpture with it, but it kind of seemed to just like get in the way, I think, and the sound worked better with the rest of the pieces in the room, so we just decided to keep it with the sound.
McArthur.
McArthur. And the name of your piece?
It's called Extension.
Okay. And can you tell us a little bit about it?
Well, I found the log in the forest. It was like up. I really wanted to build something out of it. It was just such a nice log, and I find a lot of my wood, just the trees falling over in the forest.
Do you usually work with wood?
Yes, primarily these days.
Okay.
So it's this huge, beautiful log, but it was up like 30 feet in the branches of another tree. And so I had been looking at it like for months, and one day I walked by and it had fallen, but it had broken into these 3 pieces. And so it had these beautiful parts where it had like broken, and so I wanted to find a way to put them back together and kind of extend the life of the tree. Yeah, and I wanted to kind of incorporate as much tension as I could and make it kind of a volatile system that was having some trouble staying together.
Right. So, yeah, when I look at it, it looks like it has been put together with pins like you would a broken arm or something, a broken bone. So that is kind of the idea that you're going for with something like that. And tell me a little bit about your choice of materials.
Well, the log, of course.
Yes.
Other than that, I really like sort of workshop motifs and that kind of like old Canadiana sort of visual style, and it comes up a lot in my work, and I just love the rust and the used kind of feeling, and wanted to make something that feels in some ways like an artifact.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about maybe who you're inspired by that would bring you to this place in your work.
Giuseppe Pannoni, certainly, from the Art Povera in Italy. He plays a lot with the life of trees. I'm blanking on his name. Snyder. I think he's living in Vancouver, working in Vancouver right now. Also sort of using kind of industrial materials to make kind of these tent systems. Those are really the two.
really interested in your ideas around Canadiana and the use of some of your materials. How do you bridge that? Like, how do you bridge the idea of Canadiana with your materials and your ideas? Like, I'd like to know more about your concept.
Yeah, definitely. Like even more specifically, like British Columbia, just the industries.
The logging.
Yeah, absolutely. Logging and mining occasionally. Just that kind of frontier mentality, and yeah, it's kind of evolved and fallen off in some ways, but it's still really strong here in a lot of ways, and I really like to look at that when I'm working.
Is there a message as far as maybe an environmental message or climate or?
I think that's something that comes up, but isn't something that I specifically am looking to address or trying to make a statement about. Yeah.
It's more, your interest is more in the lines of the industry, per se, and an investigation in the industry? Yeah.
And so, like, the environment definitely is a huge part of the forestry industry.
Yes.
But yeah, but I don't come from it from that side.
Can you tell us a little bit about your method of creating the piece? Like, what were some of the things that you did? And
Yeah, it was kind of a process to start with knowing that I wanted to have them together, but then coming up with a method of doing that. Yeah, so this, it evolved pretty slowly, but it ended up being the three pieces have about a 2-foot pin between them, so.
do they go all the way through?
No.
Okay.
No, it's about 2 feet, just 1 foot on either side. And so the three of them slot together, and then I've put a hole through the first and third one. And then it's just held together with that tension of the winches. Yeah. And
It's a very kind of a profound kind of visual, you know, it's very strong, and it's also so symmetrical. It's really beautiful. I'd love to see it in a large environment, like in a large, I think it would look really great.
It's definitely a little worrisome bringing it into this space, just knowing if it would even fit at all, like we were.
Do you think you'll continue in this line?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.